Kate, I love everything you said, but especially talking being the authentic version of yourself. I think that's just so important. And I've learned over the years of talking with, a wide array of people that it is a big progress for a lot of people to feel really comfortable with who they are, their faults, their successes and all that. So I just wanted to say I really commend you for, getting to that conclusion where all you can really be is, yourself.
It hasn't been easy, and especially after the divorce, looking back and accepting responsibility for my part of the demise of our relationship and seeing where I could have done things better and accepting responsibility for that radically. So, like, very uncomfortable and just, just being like, yeah, I did those things. And yes, but when you recognize that, you don't have to shame yourself about it. You just say, okay, yes, I did those things. And now I know better. And now I can do better. And then just let it go.
Join me, Jeremy Swick, on Into the Unknown, a podcast that delves into the personal journeys, stories, and experiences of individuals across diverse professions. As a historian by trade, I firmly believe that our personal histories shape our present and offer valuable insights into our paths ahead. With that being said, let's get into it. On this episode of Into the Unknown, I am joined with Kate DeCosta. How are you doing today, Kate?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jeremy?
I can't complain. It's winter in Wisconsin, but it's what I moved back for, I guess. So, doing good.
Nice. It's not too cold here in Rhode Island just yet, but I'm sure that'll be coming in the next few weeks, if not month. So I'm
It,
bracing for impact.
it's definitely getting there. So, one of
Yeah.
the ways I love to kick off the show is really talk about networking and the importance of it. So, how did we get to know each other?
On Instagram, we were following the same people. You kind of liked one of my posts and you asked me like, oh, what are you into and stuff. I really like what your profile says and what you've been talking about and stuff. And I looked at yours and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool stuff that you've got going on. So we just kind of struck up a conversation from there and um, morphed into just kind of little tidbits. And now we both have black cats and
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And, I love the aspect of networking because you really never know who you could connect with or how that connection can really be formed. So, again, I appreciate you just taking the time to talk with me.
yeah, my pleasure.
We can jump right into it. I want to know that origin story, chapter 1, comic book issue number 1. Who are you?
Okay. So I grew up southeast of Boston. Um, I moved around a bit when I got left home and stuff and went to college. I went to UMass Amherst for a couple of years and decided it wasn't for me and left to become an esthetician. Actually, went to school down here in Rhode Island in Providence for it. And once I was done with that, I moved down to St. Thomas for a couple of years with some of my friends from college and came back and just kind of started working on my career up here in the aesthetics world. But when I was in my late 20s, I got hit with some really bad digestive issues, and doctors couldn't really figure out what was going on with me. And I started having autoimmune issues. And so it kind of morphed into my quest of trying to figure out what was going on with me and why I was having these issues. And, I ended up becoming a health coach because of that, so that other people could, I could help support them and really just let them know that they're not alone and that they're not the only ones going through all of these issues and, kind of impart some of the knowledge that I've gained along the way in certain aspects and stuff with digestion and hormone health and autoimmune diseases and stuff. So it's where I'm at now.
I love that. I love that. So, when you went into coaching, what was that like? Did you just jump right in or was it over time as you're dealing with the issues you had in front of you but also trying to learn more to share with people?
No, actually, so I started researching in my late 20s and I'm now 42. And I just I did a lot of researching, working in spas and starting to kind of incorporate the more natural things, and asking, instead of people like, oh, what are you using on your skin, asking more about like, hey, how's your diet, and like things like that. Um, but it's been kind of a slow morphing into health coaching than just, I'm going to dive right in. I For myself, I didn't really realize that this was something that I could make a full time job at first, and it was just something that I did for my own sake and for my own health, and just trying to figure out my own needs. And then it kind of morphed into like, hey, if I'm having these issues and running into all of these problems with doctors not listening to me, or I'm not really being heard, or they're not respecting what I'm saying, or thinking that it's all in my head and stuff like that. It was, it, I just want to help people so that they don't have to deal with maybe the same issues, or just at least have somebody that can tell them, hey, I understand. I've been there. For me, I had food sensitivities that were undiagnosed. And in my early 20s, I was diagnosed with bipolar too. And it wasn't until I was heavily medicated for over a decade, and it wasn't until I started having those digestive issues that I started playing around with different foods and how they affect me, and doing a food diary and being like, oh, after I have, wheat, this is what happens to my body. After I have corn, this is how I feel. After, just different dairy and stuff like that. And so that kind of led me on my own journey and being able to help other people. But I found out that I actually am not bipolar too. I just had so much inflammation in my body from eating foods for so long that I could not process well, that was mimicking having those psychiatric issues. So for me, I'm really passionate about it, because I mean, think about how many people in the country take medication for, you know, different issues, and especially like anxiety, that could be like nutritional deficiencies and stuff like that. So I want to kind of help people understand that there are other modalities that they can include. I mean, obviously, when you need medication, you need a medication, and that's totally fine. And I still see a therapist and stuff like that, just to deal with the regular day-to-day stuff. But making sure that you have enough B vitamins in your diet, and that you're got enough magnesium, and are getting proper sleep and stuff like that, they can really go a long way to kind of help out with your moods and keeping them more stable. And for me, that wasn't something that any of my doctors ever said to me. And so I want to kind of help other people and be like, hey, this is something that you can try in conjunction with what you're doing, so that they don't necessarily feel like they have to be on medication for the rest of their life if they don't want to be, if that's, something that's not really appealing to them. And so that it's just kind of morphed into that. And while I was going to health coaching school, I actually filed for divorce. So it's been a progress for me, kind of fading out who I was and the masks that I was wearing, to be a certain person for the world, and kind of reclaiming who I am and stepping into the person that I am on the inside, and letting people see that again. Because for a long time, I had a lot of fear, and felt shame and stuff, to not feel good about showing people the real me. And so going to health coaching school really actually helped me kind of embrace that, and embrace who I am, and realize like, hey, I'm not, crazy thinking that health has a lot to do with mental, your mental status and stuff like that. And after my divorce was finalized last year, is when I began the health coaching business. But I still was working in the spa and stuff, and so I just actually stopped that in September, to kind of really embrace health coaching full time, and give it my devotion, so that I can really start to make an impact on the world.
Kate, I love everything you said, but especially talking being the authentic version of yourself. I think that's just so important. And I've learned over the years of talking with, a wide array of people that it is a big progress for a lot of people to feel really comfortable with who they are, their faults, their successes and all that. So I just wanted to say I really commend you for, getting to that conclusion where all you can really be is, yourself.
It hasn't been easy, and especially after the divorce, looking back and accepting responsibility for my part of the demise of our relationship and seeing where I could have done things better and accepting responsibility for that radically. So, like, very uncomfortable and just, just being like, yeah, I did those things. And yes, like, but when you recognize that, you don't have to shame yourself about it. You just say, okay, yes, I did those things. And now I know better. And now I can do better. And then just let it go. I don't want to like dwell on it, but just be like, huh, I did those things. Now I'm going to be better about how I interact with people so that, it doesn't happen again.
Kate, I love that you mentioned that. I was, in my experience of just becoming even more authentically me, I had an opportunity to move down to Atlanta, and I was the historian and curator at the College Football Hall of Fame. And I'm from the
Awesome.
Midwest. I've lived all over the Midwest, and I've loved it. And I realized when I was down there for my in-person interview, I it kind of came to reality that I was like, I might actually get this job. I might actually become the historian and curator at the College Football Hall.
Scary.
you know, it was one of those things. It was exciting, but it was also terrifying. And for me, it was one of the first times I really realized I didn't want to walk around as a shell or an eggshell of myself, making sure I, fit the role properly and doing, all the things I internally thought the outside world expected of me. So when I went and did my in-person interview, they asked me, who am I, what am I about? And I remember telling them, my name's, Jeremy Swick. I love playing rugby. I love cheering on the Green Bay Packers and drinking craft beer. And I remember I'm in a room of just nothing but execs, and they're like, this guy has our attention. And I just remember for me, it was just so freeing to just, so when I went, home for Packer games or, went to a brewery or, couldn't come in on the weekends because kind of rugby was a big part of my life. It was one of those things I was fortunate I laid out ahead of time and I could really step into being authentically me. So it's just such a good feeling. It's not easy, but it's definitely a good feeling to be comfortable in who you are.
Yeah, and it's amazing. We put these limits on ourselves. It's kind of like when they're training like an animal, when they're a baby, you have to stake them into the ground. But as they get older, they have the power to be able to, run away from the stake in the ground, but they don't even realize that they're so used to it that they don't even know that they have like the ability to do all these things. And I feel like that's us a lot of the time that we don't even know. We're so used to having to put on a farce or like putting on a facade or something that we don't even know that if just being our authentic selves can open up so much more beautiful avenues that are more aligned with who we are and the things that we like and don't like and stuff. And it happens if we just allow it.
I couldn't agree more. On everyone's journey, everyone's path, there's a chance they can go east, they could go west. They make a decision not really knowing the outcome. Can you give me a time in your life when you made a decision not knowing the outcome and how it worked out?
Oh, yep, getting divorced. Didn't know the outcome, was very scared. I had two small children. My daughter was not even quite two yet. She was just about to turn two when I filed for divorce. And it was very scary. My parents are they're pretty old school. They grew up during the Depression. My grandparents are like, immigrants. They came over from Poland and Slovakia on my mom's side. And so, they had different ideals. Fortunately, one of my sisters had already gone through a divorce, so kind of paved the way in the family for me to be a little bit more accepted that way. But, still, I grew up Catholic. It was just not something I had thought I would personally have to go through. But as time went on, I knew that it wasn't something that I wanted to be in. And regardless of how much effort I put in, you can try all you want, but if someone's not willing to meet you, like, and put in effort as well, it's not going to work. And at some point, you have to choose yourself and realize, is this how you want to spend the rest of your life? And my answer was a resounding no. I could feel kind of my it sounds terrible, but, it's just, the inner spark within me
Yeah.
wasn't there anymore. I was kind of a shell of who I really am, and, I was afraid to be seen, like I've mentioned, earlier. It just I wasn't, authentic with myself and truly feeling, supported and stuff, and I'm sure they can say the same thing about me. So it was a mutual thing where, I was the one to instigate it, so maybe I'm the bad person, but I think in the long run that it's better, all things considered. And the day after I filed, my kids and I were playing in the kitchen, and my son looks at me and he goes, "Mommy, you're happy," and that was it. That's it. Okay, yep. I don't want my kids to. I didn't want my kids growing up thinking that this was what love was, or that this was what a marriage was supposed to be. I wanted to give them a better foundation than that. And even if that meant that we had to be separate, I felt that that was a better chance for them than us being together, because I wanted them to see their parents happy instead of just miserable for the rest of their lives. So I had no idea how it would turn out, and I'm so happy. Like, I don't know if I would be where I am right now if I had stayed there. I didn't have support in becoming a health coach there, and it was I was very much caught up in the day to day and not kind of expanding my horizons. And it, yeah, I just where I am now, I'm very, very happy, and I couldn't have ever imagined this um, at the time. But I had a dream, I had a hope, I had a feeling, and I went for it. I knew that if I was led to it, that I would be led through it, and I just held on to that faith and trusted it.
Kate,
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that, and it's a big step, a really step into the unknown, if you will. And
Yep.
of course, the title of the podcast is "Into the Unknown." So I want to
Yeah.
know, what are you working on? What's your version of the unknown? I think I have an idea, but I would love to hear from you.
So right now, I'm working on, you know, taking care of my clients, doing collaborations with other, more alternative holistic practitioners. I like to work with chiropractors and other people like aromatherapists, just people that, kind of not that necessarily you have to shuck the mainstream or anything, but just have a broader view as to what health means. That it's not just about like, oh, well, I don't need to be on heart medication or something like that. Understanding that it's not just about your physical health; it's also about your mental and your emotional health too, and encompassing all of that, and that is whole body health. And that's really what I'm after. And so working with people like that is kind of my goal, and getting people to understand that they don't have to settle, and that they can reach for their goals, and really encompass having whole person health and being actually happy in their lives.
Kate, I love that. So if people want to learn more about your business and what you do, where can they find you on social media? Where are you located?
So I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Instagram, integrate period with period Kate. And LinkedIn, it's just Kate DeCosta. I do have an Integrate with Kate LinkedIn page as well, but I'm not quite as active on that just yet as I am with my personal account there. So, but yeah, and I've got my website as well, which is integratewithkate.net. And there you can book one on one consultations as well as one on one coaching and stuff like that, and read a little bit more about me and what health coaching is all about.
Kate, I want to thank you again for just taking the time and talk with me. It's been really exciting. We'll make sure to link that in the show notes to make sure people can find you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Jeremy. It was a pleasure.
That was another fun episode of Into the Unknown. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if it provides you any value or entertainment, I would love if you shared it with others, liked, subscribed, and really just help the podcast grow. Again, tell a friend, tell a foe, just anyone who might enjoy hearing some stories of people's own journeys and what got them to where they are today. Till next time.